and bring it I will. All right, I'm back. This is my second time. My first time was last month. Glad to be back on this comedy stage, because when I'm not on the comedy stage, I'm where you are, taking photos of bands, especially here at Open Chord. Oh yes, thank you so much. All right, so not unlike anything else, when you start something, you just go through some tests to see whether you really like this or not, whether you're gonna pass muster with it. Well, with live music photography, it was no exception. Started about 3 years ago. I was thrown to the wolves. Oh, excuse me, knocked down by a mosh pit. A mosh pit that had widened. I was right beside it. It knocked me over, camera and all. I was fine. I got right back up and took more photos to expose them, both then and now. Yeah. The next year, a young guy kept chasing me. He kept following me. He saw me at all these shows, and he just something about me having the camera and taking photos of the bands that really attracted him. And this guy is young enough to be my son, almost young enough to be my son. All he wanted to do was to get me to work for his local content creation company, and I eventually accepted the offer. It took some doing, but I did it. Woo! Yes. Then last year, the most unbelievable, most unforeseen thing happened. Nobody told me about this. I had to talk about my breasts. I'm serious, I had to talk about my breasts. After a really long night of taking photos, right here at Open Chord, ironically, we were all in these group photos, and we were all hugging each other good night and safe travels, both of which took about maybe 20 or 30 minutes to do. But there was one time that one of these hugs really hurt, and I showed it. And I eventually had to tell this guy that when he hugged me, my breasts hurt. I thought our friendship was going to end then, but no, our friendship has grown stronger. I mean, gosh, they say love hurts, but I didn't expect it to hurt like this. But just so you know, nothing, it was nothing too major. It was just some swelling. I feel a lot better. And I thought I had to take some time off from photography, especially not seeing bands that I would easily hug, who easily hug me. But some guy I consider my photography mentor told me that photography is addictive. Well, ladies and gentlemen, so is recognition. This breast pain I had concerned 5 bands from 4 states. So I received regional recognition for it. Yes. Well, as you can see, I really am into photography. And it has, when something becomes a part of your life, and it changes the way you think and talk. Well, of course, photography really has. It has made me realize I don't like the color orange. I know, silence, that just stunned silence. I am not ashamed of saying that. I don't look good in orange, and I will not make it happen. I'm not a VFL, so I believe I'm off the hook. I also don't like orange lights. And you know how you fill out these surveys after you visit a certain business, and they just want them to, you just have to tell them what you liked about it. Well, There was one time that I told some light guy to not have orange lights because they make my photos look awful. So there was one time I said, okay, Mike, look at this, 0 orange. Well, that caused me to have some, has some black and white photos. Well, some detail that I noticed when I first started in photography was this thing about 10 edited photos. I thought, okay, well, what's the deal with this? Is this something that's going to be the norm? I asked my photography mentor, and he said, no, it's just a guideline. I said, good, because for a while there I thought it had to be Bo Derek. I know some of you would get that. For the rest of you, ask your parents about that, okay? About the correlation between the association with 10 and Bo Derek. Just ask your parents about that. So these black and white photos, I try to do at least one for each band. I try to. Well, there was one that I took that I put it into black and white. It was of the drummer. So any drummers here? Yes, all right. I take at least one photo of you all. Well, there was one that I took of a certain drummer. His hair is somewhat long, and he had trimmed his beard, and he was wearing a button-down shirt, and I put it in black and white. And a week later, I told him that he looks really good in black and white. I work for this guy. Well, then there is also something about, and I don't know why, I have never been able to figure out why, for my Nikon brand camera, why I take really good photos of bass players. To be more specific, men who are bass players who have long blonde hair. I don't know what it is about them, but I believe I take more photos of them than I do their lead singer and guitarist put together. So if that causes bands to split up, I apologize. Sincerely apologize. Well, there's one that is very well known in this area, and I have taken lots of photos of him. Not exactly sure whether it's more of their lead singer and guitarist put together, but the first half of the set I'm taking like just some average at best photos. But then when he takes his shirt off and puts his pants just below his hips, that's when I take better photos. Yeah. Oh yes. Yes. Well, then there's another one, not in this area, just elsewhere, who has made me a very thankful person. I'm a very, very thankful person. This is not a virtue that I practice just one Thursday in November. I'm thankful that I hadn't met him until he grew his long blonde hair out. How bad is this thing with these blonde-haired bass players? It is such that if for some reason something happened in their lives and they had to cut their hair, they would have to compensate me for emotional damages. I'm Julia Pope. I'll see you next time.
Yeah, we're it up for Julia Pope. The hardest thing to do is comedy, in my opinion. It's very, very difficult.